Welcome, everybody, to another edition of the Professor Joy podcast. I am your joyful moderator, Gary Metzger. I'm a professor of journalism at California State University, Long Beach, and the always joyful creator, inventor, brains behind the app JoyScore, Professor Joy.
Thank you.
Welcome. How are you today?
Beautiful.
Excellent. You are beautiful. So, Professor Joy, let me just jump right into this, okay? We know that being joyful can make you healthier, kinder, more productive, and even more likely to get promoted. And there is research to back this up, that if you're joyful at work, you're going to be more productive. Mm-hmm. Let me throw one study out at you that was reviewed in the Harvard Business Review. Happiness, they wrote, is a way to boost productivity, and that idea seems to have gained traction in corporate circles as of late. Firms spend money on happiness coaches, team building exercises, fun consultants rather than consultants, fun consultants, and even a chief happiness officer, which Google has. And companies are taking this sort of thing very seriously. What is your take on this?
You know, the first thing I want to start with is that happiness is good, it's helpful, but joy is from within. And people ask me all the time, what is, because I founded JoyScore, and my research has mostly been in the area of joy. Although happiness is like a related area of joy. So you start with happiness, then you realize the meaning of joy, which is, and I kind of describe it by saying, if you found $100 bill on the sidewalk, it'll bring you happiness. But if you turn around and give that $100 bill to a homeless person who needs it more than you do, they'll bring you joy. And not just instantly, you'll be joyful for a while, for a few days, maybe longer. So my research shows that act of kindness brings joy. So, you know how we go to work, and sometimes we just do our work and think we have accomplished our goal. But sometimes work can be beyond yourself, but even thinking, how does my work impacts others? Does my work really help anyone, bring anyone joy, or is it just my own personal satisfaction, or all I'm doing is getting paid for what I'm doing? So work can have a lot of different meanings, and I kind of learned this early on when I started practicing architecture. I met this gentleman called Buckminster Fuller. And in my opinion, he was, at least without any doubt, the most intelligent, excelled architect in the world. He designed geodesic dome. So I had this desire to find out what takes an architect to be successful. And he said, it takes what you do with a project when you have a project. And then if you can teach. So he actually, whatever he did in his life, he really put his heart in it. And he tried to see if he can impact other people. And teaching is something I learned from him, so I did both. Anytime I did a project, it wasn't something I was doing because I was getting paid. It was something that I enjoy working on. So when I bring the joy into something, my God, it becomes a different project.
So in your opinion, should people, in a good sense, should people be bringing joy to the workplace, and then if they're joyful, it will show in their productivity,
Absolutely.
in how they talk to people on the phone, how they boost sales, for example.
Absolutely. In fact, I in 80s was friends with an author called Barry Edwards, who wrote a book called Drawing on the Right Side of the Brain. And she inspired me about this whole idea of right brain thinking, joyfulness, happiness, and all that. Because in order to be connected with your right brain, you have to be joyful. Joy brings you that concept. So I started insisting to my classes that they have to be smiling in my classes. And the university student paper wrote an article that this professor kicks you out if you're not smiling in his class. But the concept of a smile was that joy, to have an understanding that how by being joyful you can be connected with your right brain and be more creative and pretty much do anything you want to do better than before you were joyful. So that's my concept of.
So, Professor Joy, we have taken our app into the workplace.
Yes.
With a local company and everything
Right.
that was having issues with absenteeism and low morale.
Right.
And so, what exactly did they take from us in
Yes.
order to improve things?
Yeah. So they approached me and said, "Can your app help my employees, because I have 30% turnover every year." Now, 30% turnover means you have to rehire 30% people and train them. And that was costing him, and he had a workforce of about 400 people, and it was costing him about $1.5 million a year. And he said, "Look, if you save me money, like if you can bring it down to 15%, meaning you're saving me $750,000, I'll give you that, because you're saving me that money."
Right.
So we met with the HR manager and employees, and we realized that he was able to give his employees the highest level of benefits, perks, salaries, anything they could expect in his industry. But HR manager said the reason people leave because they are stressed. I said, I know what to do with that, because I had learned years ago that breathing can bring physiological change in you instantly. So I thought of this as an idea. So I'm going to try that and see if it helps, So I go and teach everybody this concept. And you're a trainer, you've heard this, called 4-7-8. 4 seconds inhale, 7 seconds hold, and 8 seconds breathe out. So this 19-second breathing is called universal meditative breathing. Every yoga teacher knows it. They teach their clients and people in the classes. It's called Universal Meditative Breathing, 478. So I said, listen, try this out before you start your day. Before you start, when you sit down to drive a truck or whatever, just do this 57-second, 3 reps of this breathing. 4 in, 7 hold, 8 out. And they did that. And I say, any time during the day you feel stressed, do that. And please, before you go home, do that so you go home happier.
Yes.
Okay. So now I got feedback that transformed not just their workplace, but their life. They were happier at home, happier at work, happier overall. And what a simple technique of breathing, because when I used to tell people you do this, you do meditation or take a walk and all that, all those things take time.
Right.
But this is under 1 minute miracle.
Yes.
To bring physiological change and take their stress level down, and all of a sudden they feel better.
You would hope that the person that learns that would then go and share that with their family.
Well, this is the interesting part. So Matt, the guy that owned the company,
right,
he said, listen, what you're doing is impacting their home, their family life. So now, because they are seeing so much benefit from JoyScore, they're taking it home and introducing it to the family. So he said, you know something? There is no perk or amount of money which can do what this is doing. Because now they're feeling that I'm giving them a gift which they're able to help their family with. And that is more important than the amount of money they could get from the company.
Right.
So it was like a winner.
Yeah, I mean, you would think, you would hope, that people will go to our app and see that, and
so they became interested, and I have taken seminars. I one time remember I took a seminar with Tony Robbins. I flew down to Colorado, stayed in a hotel for 3 days, and so I spent a few $1,000s. I was coming back in the airport, waiting to get the flight back, and I said, what did I get out of it? Is there one thing I can say I got out of it that I can apply to my life?
Right.
And I said, you know what? I'm going to start going to the gym regularly. And that changed my life.
Yeah.
So, it's like JoyScore has 1,000 pieces of content.
Right.
So many meditative, breathing, all kinds of content. But what helps, I think, people the most is this meditative breathing. And Jennifer, who actually, you haven't met her, but she is a real yogi who went to Haridwar for 3 years to learn yoga.
Oh, wow.
And she teaches it to school children now, yoga. So she's someone like, you've heard of Beatles, right?
Yes.
They went to Haridwar to learn meditation because they wanted to go to the center of world where they started meditation. Haridwar was the place yoga, meditation, and spirituality started. So that's the land of spirituality.
Yeah.
So she went there and she teaches. In fact, she's the one recorded that meditative breathing of 4 in, 7 hold, and 8 out. And it's wonderful.
Very interesting. So, Professor Joy, how about this? Can focusing on being joyful make us less joyful? So, let me give you a little bit of research behind that question, okay? Before you answer. Researchers asked their subjects to watch a film that would usually make them joyful. And the film was of a figure skater winning a medal. But before watching the film, half of the group was asked to read a statement about the importance of joy in life. Okay? The other half did not read the statement. The researchers were surprised to find that those who had read the statement actually were less happy after watching the film. So essentially their conclusion is when being joyful becomes a duty, it can make people feel worse if they fail to accomplish it. Your comment.
Yeah, so this is very true. Nothing that you do out of being required to do works well.
Got it.
So I have dealt with this concept of joy all my life.
Yeah.
Because I actually became a universal professor, teacher to my students, my employees, and my clients. Because I'm an architect, I'll talk to clients. And often I would find my clients stressed. And I would teach them. And they say, "Who are you?"
All of a sudden you're Yogi Professor Joy, right?
Yogi architect, yogi professor, yogi employer. I would teach my employees how to be joyful, because I realized early on, and that's going back to Betty Edwards, I have to give her the credit of making me understand the concept of right brain connectivity. So, to the audience who may not know, we have two brains, left and right. Right brain is mostly creative, intuitive. Left is analytical. And the front lobe, which processes left and right, kind of determines what you need to deal with. So the point is that anything you're trying to achieve, if you can just learn to be joyful by nature, not by requirement. If your employer is saying, "Hey, you got to be joyful," if they can just learn that by being joyful, they would simply have a better day. Like I gave you an example of these people at Matt's company,
right,
who were learning how to have a better day, to be more joyful, So my belief is that joy is like the foundation of self-esteem. In order to have good self-esteem, in order to love yourself, you need to be joyful. And once you achieve that, everything in life becomes easy. Everything. Work, accomplishments, winning medals, whatever it is that you're trying to do, That's like learning how to drive. Once you know how to drive, you can go anywhere you want to.
Right.
That's what it is.
Interesting. I'd like to bring up one more study, if I can.
Please.
This was done about 5 years ago, Professor Joy, and it was research that was conducted with the business school at the University of Oxford, and with the British telecom firm BT. This was done over a 6-month period. In conclusion, the study found that being joyful and productive, they found that workers were 13% more productive when they were joyful. They found that workers are happier, joyful. They work faster by making more calls per hour worked, and importantly, convert more calls to sales. And this was a quote from Jan Emmanuel Deneuve from the University of Oxford. Another interesting thing, the study also factored in local weather conditions, Professor Joy, and uncovered a clear negative relationship between adverse weather conditions and the joy of the worker.
You know, now, England obviously doesn't have the most complimenting weather. So, as an architect, in my architectural office, I had an intern from London, Lauren, and she came for 3 months and worked there. And she didn't want to go back. He said, is there any way you can keep me here? I said, Lauren, you came for 3 months. And that's the kind of visa you have, and you have to go back. He said, okay, I'm going to go back, but I want to come back because I hate the weather there. Now, she told me that 3 months that she spent here in Southern California, she feels she was the happiest ever in her life. So there is a relationship between good weather, being joyful, happier, accomplishing more, and on and on and on.
Yeah.
Now, your previous statement about 13% more productive.
Yes.
Okay. Now, I would say that it could even be higher because being joyful becomes a way of life. So, Braden, our friend chief of police of Long Beach, 1,300 police officers, I asked him, I said, hey, Braden, what's the age group kids start getting incarcerated? He said, 12-year-old. I said, my God, 12-year-old are babies.
Right.
How do they get incarcerated, in trouble with law? He said, well, that's the time they're looking for joy or be happy, and they try to find it in drugs, gangs, crime, illicit sex, and shit like that. And they get in trouble.
What if we were to introduce JoyScore to schools?
Well, we're doing that because our sister company called Readability, they help kids from 4 to 12. And I'm suggesting that when they leave Readability, they adopt JoyScore.
Absolutely.
And then they stay with it till the end of life, because now we are talking about workplace.
But this is also true in the education field also.
Absolutely. In fact, every aspect of life. So you haven't met him, but before you got involved with JoyScore, I had a board member. His name was David White. And he had a friend who had 400 employees in the company, which went and took care of older people at home, helped them out with food and bathing and whatever. And he said, these people are very stressed, and JoyScore can help them feel better.
Yes.
And I said, absolutely. And then he comes back and said, by the way, not only just employees, even our clients could benefit from it because they have lost hope. They think they're slowly dying.
Right.
But if they can learn to use JoyScore and realize that they can improve their JoyScore, so now it's going to give them new hope. And they'll feel better.
Right.
So, and these are all like 70 plus years old, so my thinking is that anyone, and we have one of the influencers we have, she has a place called Bala where she teaches kids, 4-year-olds, meditation and yoga. I said, how do you teach them? He said, they love it. So I said, if we can teach kids, 4-year-olds, how to be joyful by being involved with yoga, meditation, and breathing. I mean, Steffi does that. Steffi's son is 4-year-old, and she does yoga and stuff with her. And she says he enjoys it. So the point is that people can learn to be joyful at any age. I mean, I don't know if I can really teach anyone earlier than 4-year-old, but 4-year-old I know for sure, Steffi is, this lady Bala is, that they can learn to be joyful. I mean, she was saying that he enjoys it. So if you can teach kids to be joyful, you know what you're doing?
Yes.
It's changing their life.
Yes.
And at 12-year-old, they won't need to be incarcerated.
Exactly. Exactly.
Because they would know what to do with their life.
Right. Right.
So this is the foundation, of human life, I would say.
Right. What a great place to stop.
Thank you.
Everybody, thank you so much. We have a guest coming next week.
Yes.
And so we hope that you will join us for another edition of the Professor Joy podcast. Have a great week, and we will see you next week.
Thank you. Thank you, Professor Metzger. This was good.